Awesome. Well, yes, let's tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then I believe a lot of the audience is from your Instagram as well. So this is Shaolin from Nannocare. We're based in LA, and then we launched NannoPad, which is an organic pad using biodegradable plastic packaging, and also
Mm-hmm,
help to
mm-hmm.
get cramping naturally. And we have a lot of great feedbacks from the Endometriosis Society. That's why I think it's really, really important. I myself actually were not aware about endometriosis until like after I started working in Nannocare, and then we did some
Mm-hmm.
research. We received some feedbacks from the customers who's from the Endo Society, this Endo community. Then I'm like, wow, oh my God, it opened up a whole new world.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's really, really important. And then we donated to lots of endo related, nonprofits. So it's really important. And a lot of my friends are still not aware of it. That's why I think, okay, we
Right.
do something. And then March is also an endometriosis awareness month. So I think it's perfect timing. So yes, let's start with Lauren talking a little bit about yourself and then how Endo Black started.
Yes, well, like you said, my name is Lauren, Lauren Renee Kornegay. I am the founder of Endo Black Incorporated. I got started because I was diagnosed with endometriosis in March of 2011. And honestly, once I got started, I just hit the ground running. But the real reason why this was really started was because there was a lack of representation, and a lack of awareness. I wasn't
That way.
aware of endometriosis either. And when the doctor came to me and said, you may have endometriosis, I couldn't even pronounce it correctly. Um, so that was some difficulty for myself, and just recognizing that, I started looking it up, started trying to research, and I realized that we have a really big disparity with lack of awareness, and then also making sure that women of color actually have some type of representation as well. So that is why I got started. I launched Endo Black in October of 2015. And I want to say thank you to you because you supported our first meet and greet, and you sent us. I asked for some support, and I didn't realize that you would be sending over so many boxes, but you sent over almost, I think, 50 boxes, and we were able to give them out to every single person that attended our first meet and greet, including our guest speakers. So I just want to say thank you for supporting, and always, looking out for organizations that are trying to make change in the community. So thank you for that.
Of
But
course, of yes.
yes, we really started because we just realized there was a lack of representation, and I wanted to spread awareness in the community and talk about not taboo situations. A lot of things like periods, women's reproductive health, it's so taboo, and we have to make it a normal conversation, and not make people afraid to talk about these things. So that is why we really push, push for this to actually come about. We don't expect people to talk about it at the dinner table or anything like that, but we want people to feel comfortable enough to go to their family members, their mothers, their fathers, or anybody in their family, just to say, hey, I think something is wrong. What should I do? Can I get help?
Exactly. I totally agree. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's been a great journey since we're starting to trying to make um, period, first of all, to be in the normal conversation. Then
Mm-hmm.
endometriosis, in the smaller scale, but actually, surprisingly, the amount of people who have endometriosis,
Right.
endometriosis, see, I can't even pronounce it well as well.
It's okay. We could just say endo.
So actually, the community is larger than we thought, but then the
Yeah.
amount of people who have heard about this word is way smaller than it should be. So
Mm.
it is. I think it's great that Endo Black it's starting the conversation as well, and then creating a conversation between BIPOC women.
Yes, it really is important. I can't stress it enough because the lack of awareness also affects the lack of research. So if we are only doing research on a specific demographic, you don't know how Native American women are affected. You don't know how Black women are affected. You don't know how the Asian women are affected. And we all are different. So we need to make sure that we are paying attention to all of that information. And we really do lack a lot of research studies when it comes to women of color as a whole. So we have to make sure that if we are trying to really solve the problem of endometriosis and come up with a cure, or even just try to help, we have to figure out how it's affecting each woman separately. We can't just go with, the one type of woman.
Exactly. Really, really true. That's also what we want to talk about, is like how endo affects BIPOC women. Is that every woman is so different. It's not just endometriosis, it's also PCOS, and then other related, menstrual health issues, or even breast health, and then uterus health, and lots of other things that is different. The same disease affects different bodies differently. So that's also why it is important to raise awareness, and then also try to fund studies and research, for them as much as possible as well. I saw a lot of bigger nonprofits for the endometriosis, and their studies is great, but also it is also true that a lot of them are funding for specific groups and for specific regions and specific areas, which will be helpful for other regions and other races as well, but maybe not so much. So I think it's important that we, as normal people and smaller groups, that's why we helped Endo Black at the beginning, because I see this group is a small group, must be tough to get funding. A lot of times bigger groups, they have a lot of sponsorship from all kinds of bigger. So for Nannocare, we started small. We had a small team. We were found by a small group of people that just working our way out to the mass. That's why that we think that it's important to support smaller groups. That's why we've been sending products out for a lot of the meet and greet, and lots of the community nonprofits. They are actually smaller, and then turns out it's more helpful than we expected. Like
it really is.
Now I saw Endo Black. I'm like, wow, it grow way bigger than 2 years ago. And then I was so proud, and I'm like, we must talk about this. We must let people know that if you're starting something small, whatever that is about, never afraid to ask. I think, Lauren, you did great to just reach out to people and not be afraid, and like, hey, here's what we're doing. It's amazing. But although we're small, but it's amazing. It's going to be great. And that confidence is actually going to get a lot of people feel like, I could feel your energy. And that's also why I feel like, okay, we got to support this.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My mom said, ask and you shall receive. You can either get a yes or you either can get a no. And I think that's the way to go, because collaboration is the way we have to do this. We can't do this by ourselves. Nobody can do anything by ourselves. That's not a realistic approach to anything. If you think that you can just get out here and solve problems by yourself, well, then that's going to be a situation where you're by yourself, because you have to work with other people. And NannoPad in general, like after you donated that and then we use them, I said, let me buy me some, because like, understanding how important it is to use non-toxic pads and sanitary napkins is so vital. It's so vital. A lot of times we use products and we just think, oh, because they're in the store and they're approved through this corporation or this corporation, that it's okay. That doesn't always mean that it's okay for you specifically. So a lot of times the products that we use can have a larger effect on our bodies than we even recognize. So just being comfortable, I think, and that's a big thing. They're comfortable. A lot of sanitary napkins are very, very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. And so.
Exactly. What's interesting fact is that a lot of the buyers in stores for feminine care are actually male buyers. a little bit of insights from a supplier. So a lot of them, I mean, most of them are great, and they are in the industry, or they might be assigned from departments, but a lot of them, they give the products to their wife and their daughters, and then
Yeah.
they try it. But then I feel like I wish this thing would happen to all the other guys in the world.
Yeah. It's gonna come. It's gonna get there. I think that that is an amazing thing. Because some men are starting to get a little bit more vocal. They're starting to get a little bit more aware, even if they don't know the ins and out. They're like, I think these products are good for my wife. I think these products are good for my daughter. Let me buy them. That's enough right there so we can get the conversation going. So that is a great start. Hopefully, like you said, it rubs off though.
Exactly, totally. And then, well, as a community leader, you started from scratch, right? You started from just yourself,
Yes.
and you grow to where you are now, which is
Mhm.
still growing. So what is challenge as a community leader?
For me, what's challenging as a community leader is not being able to help everyone. I think that that is the most challenging thing. You hear so many stories, you hear so many um, situations where women are going through things, where people are going through things when it has something to do with endometriosis or women's reproductive health in general. And people need money. And I don't have money. And I wish I could just give them money, but I can't. And there's people that need surgeries. There are people like in all 2020, we noticed that there were a large amount of women that could not have surgeries because of COVID and the pandemic. They couldn't do surgeries. And that put a lot of women in a lot of terrible situations with mental health and discomfort, and also financially. And the fact that we are not this large organization where we're able to assist people and we're not able to sponsor people for their surgeries and things of that nature, that's very difficult. A lot of people don't recognize that insurance companies do not really pay for this. And then some people that do the surgeries don't accept insurance. And in order for you to get the diagnosis, you have to have a surgery. In order for you to get the help you need, you have to have surgery. There's no other way of treating the endometriosis. And as we know, there is no cure for endometriosis either. So the only thing that's really helping a lot of women is going back to have multiple surgeries. So that, as a community leader, that makes me frustrated because I can't change that. But I can give you pointers and tips and send you doctors that we know or that we've heard have been doing well. But that's really it. Like, just not being able to make an impact. We can make an impact, but we want to make a larger impact. And that is very, very difficult and disheartening, because if we start supporting, one woman's GoFundMe, next thing we have to support everybody's, and it's not fair that we can't support everybody.
Exactly. That does sound super, super, super challenging. I think if in order to be able to make a mass impact, first of all, raise awareness. Second of all, then maybe we can have something more implemented into the system, in the medical system, insurance systems, all of those things.
Yeah.
And in order to make such big impacts, definitely will need a lot more connections. That's why the awareness is so important. And having March being an endometriosis awareness month, I think it's a good, like, it's a big surprise. I didn't know about it until I think 2019, actually, about the
Mm-hmm.
endometriosis awareness month, and I'm like, wow, this thing is huge. Like, I'm glad that we have it being recognized by the UN now. Then what is next, So I think that
Right. What's
all
next?
exactly all of the communities, including Endo Black and all of the other endo communities, everything they're doing is really impeccable, because you're representing the specific group of people. Like, you can't control it, nobody wants endo, right? It just comes just like
Right.
periods, right? So that's the thing, is that we definitely need to do more, maybe starting by telling friends around you, educating, your children, educating, you know, um, your families about this, and then see what we can do from there. Try to get as much connection as possible. We are going on all kinds of, social medias. We talk, go to Clubhouse, we go to different Facebook groups and all that. And then I think we need to do more, way more. If we can have a march, we can have, when COVID is settled down, maybe we can do more events. We can.
Yeah, I think COVID kind of messed up Endometriosis Month. Endo March actually does a couple of marches. Actually, I think they're doing something on the 28th. It's more so virtual, and it's like around the world where they're doing, each country maybe doing something at a certain time. But I don't know all of the details of it, but I believe Tiffany, she's a part of Endo March, and she shared it. So if I could, I'll share it with you after we get off.
Yeah.
And then, another thing, we recently had our conference, and I ended it by doing the state of Endo in the Black community, and I listed some call to action so that people in the community could do some things. Two things that I definitely recommended was making sure that we reached out to our local government or local agencies to make sure that they recognize endometriosis month, because each state does their own thing. We know that. But each state can also recognize Endometriosis Awareness Month and do a proclamation so that each month that is talked about. And a lot of places people still don't know what endometriosis is. People still don't understand it. And that's understandable, but in your local community, we have to figure out the next step. And then also in your local community, we can figure out what can we do specifically to make sure that women with endometriosis are getting the help that they need, whatever necessary. So, talking to your local agencies, your local government officials, just getting in contact with them. Right. And then I think recently, and I cannot remember her name, Representative Yavetta. I can't remember her last name. She just passed. She's just working on a bill for fibroids. She has fibroids, and she talked about it. So she's working on a bill for fibroids. So if we start doing stuff like that, connecting with our local agencies, our local representatives in the area where you live at, you can do small things. You don't have to really talk on your platform. I know a lot of people don't want to open up and be vulnerable, and I think that that's perfectly fine. But you can do small things like write letters to your officials, make sure you're calling them to talk about what's necessary, making sure you're connecting with other people. You don't have to use your platform, but you can be behind the computer. I know we are a generation that likes to type, send letters, and make phone calls. So I think that's something that people can do as well.
Exactly. And then also with brands, I know that a lot of our audience, and then there are also people who are business owners. They might create their own little product, create their own service, or whatever that they are doing. A lot of them are consultant or yoga teacher, but I feel like whatever you are doing, and I think everyone have the response as well. You have of students and then colleagues and all of those. These are all really good resources you can use. And then I also mentioned school that we just talked about, and with the events we can also try to implement in college, universities, and then making sure that it's being heard. So these are all things that we could do, and then these are things that look small, but could make huge impact if a lot
very huge impacts, very huge impact. And I don't think people recognize that, because the thing is, everybody starts off small anyway. We aren't expecting people to go out and do large things. We're looking for people to do what they can. So you have companies that have started off very small, and you have those companies that start off with a true mission to help whatever it is they chose to help. That small little step and that small mission turns into something big, but that also can help so many women or so many people that are affected by endometriosis. And I think also we need to start looking into like the healthcare. What can we do to make sure that women that are not able to access healthcare, or women that are not able to afford surgeries, are getting these surgeries? I think that that is a really big problem that we have to figure out how to face. So there's so many pillars to all of these things. And I think whoever is good at whatever should stick to whatever they're good at and just tackle that task. And then we come back together and collaborate, and we see, okay, you did this, I did this, she did this, okay, he did this. Okay, this is how we fix the problem. And then we move forward with it.
Exactly, exactly. And then in terms of people who think that they might have endometriosis, but they're not sure, they might have a fear of going to the doctor and then having it diagnosed or not. So how do you suggest to overcome that fear of going to the doctor?
Mm.
See, you do have it.
Let me see. Because
Like,
I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all. Like, I will tell you the truth. Like, I I knew something. Well, I didn't know anything was wrong. Let me say that. I never knew anything was wrong in relations to the pain that I had, what type of pain I had, or why I had pain. The only reason I knew something was wrong is because my cycle ended and then it came back on. Literally within 3 weeks, back to back cycles. And that's not a thing that I was used to. And that happened in college. And my mom had passed away. So it wasn't like I could ask her. And I really didn't know who to really talk to about it. So I went to the ER. The ER told me to go find a gynecologist. I did. And I found a gynecologist that listened. And I think that that is key. Finding a gynecologist or endo specialist that actually listens to you about what's happening with your body is very, very important. I told her what was going on. She asked me every question in the book. She did a pelvis exam. She said, okay, you have a reverted uterus. Most likely you have endometriosis. I'm going to have to schedule you for a laparoscopic surgery so that you can really have a process and we can figure out what the problem is. And I'm not going to tell you I wasn't scared. I was terrified. But you know what's also terrifying? Not knowing what's wrong versus knowing what's wrong.
that's so
So you
true.
have to really, you have to pick which one you want to really deal with. Not knowing what's going on with you, you can't fix it. You can't
Exactly.
you can't monitor it. You can't change it. But knowing what's going on, understanding something is happening, having some type of answer or clue allows you to monitor what's happening, at least go to an endo specialist to figure out, okay, this is the next step, and also pay attention to what you're doing in your everyday life. With endometriosis, you have to pay attention to what you're eating, what you're ingesting, the vitamins, what you're drinking, what you're doing. And if you don't have a clear diagnosis, I know we can talk about, I've heard women say, I think I have endometriosis. And that's your choice, but I do not recommend anybody to diagnose themselves with endometriosis. I think it's very, very important to go to a doctor that listens to you, that will perform a surgery on you to confirm if you have endometriosis or not, because people are misdiagnosed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can
Exactly.
confuse, well, I don't want to say you can confuse, but women's reproductive health, all of the
Mm-hmm.
stuff is linked together somehow. So you could possibly have PCOS or fibroids or endometriosis or just a cyst. You really need to narrow it down to what you have so that when it's time for you to, have a child, if you're interested in having a child, you know what's going on. When it's time for you to eat some food, you know that you're not eating the wrong foods and they're causing you to flare up. So that's what's really, really important. I know it's very fearful. I was afraid. I'm not going to tell you I wasn't afraid. But I'm glad that I had the diagnosis, because
Yes.
if I didn't have the diagnosis, I would probably be running around here thinking something was wrong with me, running crazy through the streets, and people wasn't going to be listening to me.
Exactly.
And that's not okay.
Yes, yes, that's so true. I love the point about the fear of knowing and choosing between the fear of knowing and not knowing. That is so important. I think that answers the questions of how you should confront it and overcome it. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think it is also why I always recommend all my friends to join all the women's health related group. I don't have breast cancer, but I will join a breast cancer group so that I know I'm aware.
Yep.
Same as
Yep.
same as fibroids, same as PCOS, all of those things. Because as you said, all of them somehow are related. So
Right.
you this, but you may have a little sign that is related or something. So that's why being in the know is really important. You don't need to be I told people about this I told people about Endo Black, and then they were like, but I don't have endometriosis, I feel fine and all that. I said, it doesn't matter, it's about knowing about it.
Yeah.
So
And
that's why
I also think that people don't recognize that endometriosis looks different for everybody. So one person may not have cramps at all. They may not have any pain, but they may have endometriosis. There's 4 different types of stages. There's several different types of endometriosis. Endometriosis isn't just a disorder that affects the uterus. It can affect your brain, it can affect your abdomen, it can affect your heart, it can affect your uterus, your fallopian tubes, your ovary, your kidney, your lung. Yeah, it can affect every single thing. So what we may think is a woman's reproductive health situation, we're like, oh, that's just the uterus. And that's why I say it affects men as well. That's why I keep saying people, because it affects a lot of people and people don't recognize it. So I think that's why we have a lack of research and a lack of funding, because people don't realize that it can affect men. Once men start getting endometriosis heavy and there's more communication around it, trust and believe we will have so much funding, people are going to lose their minds. So, but we just need to recognize that this is not a disorder that affects the uterus. This is a disorder that affects the entire body. So what people may perceive as, oh, I don't have pain in my cycle or my period. It's not about your period. It's not about the pain. It's about a disorder that can be inside of you and you not even know it. And it can cause other problems like cognitive issues. It can cause brain fog. It can cause nausea, vomiting. So a lot of times we don't even recognize that as endometriosis.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like a lot of misconceptions going on about endo.
Yep.
Because I feel like I before you told me, I think that it's mostly just about the periods. It's just affecting your menstruation, and that's it. And so see if people are not even having cramps that could be having endometriosis. That's really, really important to know, because you don't even know if you have it. So that is really, really important. And what are the common misconceptions about endos that you've heard, apart from the cramping and the period and the uterus?
There's several. So you have infertility. Infertility, yes, endometriosis could cause infertility. That does not mean you are not capable of having a child. Again, endometriosis affects everybody differently. You have several, like I know several women, and when I say several, we just literally had a panel discussion on motherhood and endometriosis. It is possible. There are women that have 4 kids with endometriosis. So you just have to be mindful of it and talk to your doctors to really see what your specific situation is. We can't say, oh, because you have endo, you're not going to have a child. My gynecologist has told me in the past, you won't know if you can have a child until you have a child or until you try to have a child. So you just need to make sure that you talk specifically with your gynecologist or your OBGYN or your endo specialist to make sure that you are aware of those things. Another misconception is that there's a cure. There is no cure for endometriosis. Not at this moment. We don't know, because there is no real indication on why endometriosis is endometriosis. So until they figure out what causes endometriosis, they probably won't be able to figure out what the cure for endometriosis is. There's also misconceptions around you should have a baby because endometriosis is cured by pregnancy. That is not the case. It goes back to what is specific for each woman. So for instance, if you are pregnant and you have a baby, you may not have any more symptoms such as pain, but that doesn't mean you don't have endometriosis anymore. Or for some women, they literally are good 9 months after their child, and then bam, it hits them and they got the pain again. So it's very specific to each person's case. And it's also probably specific to what people are eating and what they're doing. So I think people need to be mindful of that, but never let a doctor tell you to give birth to cure your endo, because I don't want you to be upset when you give birth and then you still got endo and now you upset because now you got a child and endo and you don't know what to do. So just be mindful of that, because having a baby is not cheap. It's not cheap at all. So you have to make sure you make the right decisions with that. And then also hysterectomies. Hysterectomies do not cure endometriosis for everyone. It is not a cure. It is a procedure that may minimize the pain. I know a couple of women that have had hysterectomies that are doing perfectly fine without pain. Whether or not they have other symptoms such as the brain fog, nausea, vomiting, that is something else that they have to look into. There are many women that have had hysterectomies that are still going through pain, still having issues, still, dealing with certain things. So we have to be mindful and do our research for that specific person. I keep saying that because I want people to it's really specific. Like my endometriosis is not the same as anybody else's. Whether or not we can, compare and contrast information, I think that that's very vital. However, we can't say that, oh, well, April had a hysterectomy, so that should work for me, because that's not the case. We just have to be mindful. Now, I will say that it is important to talk to the woman in your family, though. That may be very, very helpful to figure something out. I think that those are the main misconceptions about endometriosis, because we talk about pregnancy all the time. We talk about infertility. We talk about hysterectomies. And we also talk about cures. And I think that people get those confused. And I can understand why, because doctors are telling you to do these certain things because that's what they were taught, or that's what they believe. However, it's important to do your research on the doctor that you're talking to. Important for you to do research on the procedures that your doctor are asking you to do. And it's also important to get second, third, and fourth opinions, because this is also your life and you have to take it into consideration. Just like if you went to a restaurant and ate some bad food. If you went to a restaurant and ate some bad food, you would complain. So if you went to the doctors and the doctors are telling you some information that's bad for you, you need to complain as well and let them know that that doesn't seem like a great idea for you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Would you say that being diagnosed with endo makes you living a healthy life more, like a healthier lifestyle, changing into a healthier lifestyle that is full of wellness?
For me in particular,
Mm-hmm.
I am going to live life the best way that I can. I love food. I'm not gonna lie, I love it, and the food loves me back. Sometimes, other times it hates me. So I just think it's important to be mindful of what you're eating. Be mindful of having those vitamins. So we talk about vitamins a lot of times. When we were younger, I'm 32 now, I saw my mom taking vitamins. I'm like, dang, she's taking a lot of pills, not recognizing that that is what we all need to be doing. We need to be taking probiotics. We need to be taking magnesium, maca root, zinc. We need to be adding chlorophyll into our diet. We need to add as much stuff into our diet as possible, because the foods that we eat, we don't get all those nutrients from the food.
Mm-hmm.
We do
Exactly.
so much stuff to it that we can't receive. And also we don't eat enough. They have vitamin K in spinach and kale. You're never going to receive the amount of vitamin K that you actually need by eating one setting of kale.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not possible. So you have to make sure that you have your vitamins. You have to make sure that you drink your water. You have to make sure that you are being active and moving. Now, I'm not telling you go out and run and do yoga, exercise, and just go outside and move. Walk, lift your leg up, put your leg down, do some
Yeah.
basic stuff every now and then just to move around. I think that is very helpful for all of us. We need sunlight. That is what we need. That's vitamin D. And that is something that keeps us going. So we just have to be mindful of those type of things. Products, a whole nother conversation. I think that we've been just using things and not really knowing. Like, you can look at uh your makeup and look at the ingredients and can't pronounce not near one of them things and just be so confused. And we like, oh, okay, well, I'm just going to keep putting it on my face. No, if you cannot pronounce that, there's a
Yeah.
problem. We need to come up with a solution. What is this? You know,
Mm,
what are we putting on our bodies?
yeah.
What are we drinking? There are some products that we drink on a daily basis that have words with at least 15 letters in it.
Yeah.
What does this mean? So we
That-
just have to be mindful of it.
yes, I totally agree. I agree about being mindful and then understanding the ingredients, read the labels, and then for the exercise. The thing is though, when we talk about living a healthy lifestyle, a lot of people feel like, oh, that sounds so difficult. I have to
Oh, yeah.
love to eat, or I have to do this or do that.
It's
But it's
not difficult.
not that difficult. It's basically,
It's really
you
not. It's
know,
really not that difficult.
exactly. So it's just being in the know of what you eat, and then trying to eat something that is less processed as much as possible.
Less
Knowing
sugar.
exactly. Drink more
Hmm.
water, less sugar, and then knowing that what you're lacking in your diet, then you'll look for supplements and then look for other solutions. It's basically just being knowing that what kind of portions that you're having. Um,
Yeah.
in your foods, and also in your daily basis, how much sun you're getting, how much exercise you're doing. It doesn't have to be a big hardcore exercise. Basically
It
move
doesn't.
dogs, small things like that is would be very helpful. I totally
Yeah.
with that.
And
We can totally still love food,
yep.
and you know we can still live a happy, satisfying lifestyle and enjoy.
Yep. And I also think people need to figure out what's best for them. So for me, like, red meat makes me flare up. Cabbage makes me flare up. So that's another thing. So people, when they think healthy, oh, they're thinking vegan, vegan. I don't want to be a vegetarian. I don't want to be vegan. We're not telling you to be vegan. We're not telling you to be a vegetarian. We're just telling you to monitor what you're eating. So women with endometriosis, when I was trying to figure stuff out back in like 2012, 2013, I was like, oh, well, I'll just be a vegetarian, or I'll cut back on this. I'll just eat fish and seafood and I'll do this. And then I was eating edamame. I was having hummus. I was doing all these things, and hummus, chickpeas, edamame, they cause me to flare up because they have soy in them. And you don't know that. Soy is estrogen, and now you have a whole nother problem. So sitting down and doing research is it's time consuming and it can be overwhelming, but so is going to the hospital every 2 months.
Exactly.
That is also costly. That's not cost efficient. I can't go to the hospital every single week. I
Mhm.
can't go to the hospital every single year because I didn't take the time to sit down and do some research on my body. What else is, difficult?
Mhm.
Going to work. We go to work every day, learn new tests. Going to college is difficult. Finishing high school is difficult. Getting out here, learning how to drive a car is difficult. We have to not make excuses. We
Yeah,
have to really say to ourselves, okay, I'm going to take the extra steps that I need. Am I telling you to stop drinking alcohol? Absolutely not. That's not my forte. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I'm not going to tell you stop eating sugar. I'm not going to tell you stop eating sweets. I'm going to tell you to monitor it, make sure that you're paying attention to it, so you can have natural sweets. You can have fruit. You can substitute things out. Like, I eat watermelon. I used to eat cake. I love cake. I love cake, but now I'm going to eat watermelon. That's my sweet stuff. And also, like, I do still eat red meat, but
mhm.
it's not oh, I eat red meat every single day. It's oh, summer is coming. There's a cookout. I might have a rib that I'm going to take home and eat. And I know I'm going to have a flare up later. So I'm going to eat it at home. And then when the flare up comes, I'm going to go to bed.
Mm.
I know what I have to do for myself. It's just all about moderation. It's all about paying attention to how you eat. People cut out dairy. Me, I'm not there yet. I love cheese. I'm still not there. I'm going to get there. But for me in particular, I'm not there yet. But there are so many ways you can cook different things. You have Tabitha Brown, who is an amazing cook who does a lot of different vegan dishes. So for me in particular, I do juicing sometimes.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
not always tasty. It's
No,
not always tasty. Celery juice is disgusting. I promise you it is. But that is a sacrifice that I make for myself that day. So I have days where I do green. I have days where I might do orange. And then I do
that.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I just, whatever I have left over, I'll do. So I might do like a kale and sweet potato,
Mhm.
mix that together. I'll do some celery juice early in the morning with nothing on my stomach, and then I'll eat something afterwards. Might have a green apple, might add some avocado toast, just have something green on that day, on that Monday. And I try to do this before my cycle, because a lot of people don't recognize that how we feel during our cycle is
Mhm.
because of what we did prior to our cycle. Like our ovulation period is when it's really serious.
Yes,
um
that's cool. And then
it
I totally love the idea of substituting, meaning that you love
has to.
something healthier that's also sweet. Another thing that I found is really helpful is implementing is in trying to create a healthier habit together with something you love to do. So for me,
Yeah.
I eating salad because I grew up in China and then we cook all the vegetables. So
Mm-hmm.
eating salad is like eating grass. So I told, but then it's definitely healthier because it's unprocessed. You
Right.
get fibers on the nutrients that will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Cook them. So what I do is that I make sure I always eat salad with something I love. I put nuts, dry fruit,
That's a good one.
rada, and then so I will just implement good things with the things that I don't like, but it's good for me.
Yeah.
And
Because it takes the taste,
yeah, so
you
together
know.
offset it, or I give myself reward. Like if I finish, I can finish a meal with salads every single day for a week. I give myself reward. I get to go out to a restaurant that I,
Mhm.
things
A
like that
cheat day.
together. So that would be making it really fun, and then you achieved it, and you feel happy. It's still
Right.
satisfying because
Right, because you're doing something. It's a challenge. We all like challenges. If we look at it like that, then that is what's going to help us. So we have to be mindful of that. And even like tuna salad. So I still eat tuna, but I juice and I don't like wasting things. So when I juice carrots, there's a lot of shredded carrot left over. So Tabitha Brown has a recipe called una salad. So it's literally just tuna salad, but you replace the tuna with carrots. And I know people are probably like, that's nasty. But it's really not that nasty. If you get you some vegan mayonnaise, and do everything exactly how you do your tuna salad, it actually is pretty good. It's not terrible, and it's not too bad. It is kind of tasty. You can put
exactly
that on a wrap. You can put that on some sourdough toast spread. You can eat that by itself. You can eat it with some crackers, and you can drink your carrot juice. So that's something that is really beneficial, and you don't waste food, because I think that's my biggest problem, like wasting food. I really don't like that. And then there's some other things you probably can look into do. I definitely do it's really interesting how I do this, but
Mhm.
Tabitha Brown showed me a little bit. So I like spaghetti,
Yeah.
but and this is my own diagnosis. I probably shouldn't say this, but I am allergic to pesticides.
Oh,
And so that's cuts out lemon, lime, mango, pineapple, kiwi, tomatoes,
wow.
orange juice,
It's like everything I eat every day.
grapefruit, everything I love. So this started in 2010 though. So it wasn't something that automatically happened. It just started in 2010 before I was diagnosed with endo. So in 2010, it started with just pineapples, and then it went over to pineapples and grapefruit. And then in 2016, when I was in South Carolina,
So
lemons and
slowly,
limes. Yeah, and I was like, oh, it's getting bad, because when I moved back home, I end up having there's these little packets of like lemon and ginger, and I just put it in my water, and I was like, oh, girl, you sick? Let me drink some, not even recognizing that it was lemon, honey, and ginger. The lemon was causing my throat to close up. And I was steady drinking it because I was like, oh, well, let me just keep drinking it because the water is cold. And I was like, girl, you are crazy. You didn't read the packet. It's lemon in it. And I was like, wow. So I really have to take a step back and substitute a lot of stuff. So I started substituting, well, I guess I didn't substitute the tomatoes, but I when I get pizza, I get like if you go to like and pizza, you can switch out the toppings and the pizza sauce that you want. So I have to make sure that I pay attention when I eat pizza now. When I do my spaghetti, I do a grounded pecan mix. It's like grounded pecans. I put them in a blender, but I don't do it too much, but I do it really finely, and then I just cook the stuff, and it ends up looking like turkey meat, which I know sounds disgusting, but it's really, really not. And then I mix it with the spaghetti squash. So it actually does come out okay. And then I put some spinach on top, and that's like the seasoning for everything. So
That actually sounds pretty good to me. And then, I mean, like it is true that with your experience, I think it also shows it is important to identify how your body reacts to certain things. A lot of time don't know. Like my husband's, his nose keep running, like when he was since when he was a child, and for like he didn't even know he had his lactose intolerance until he's like 10. So like he just
see?
have his every day and not knowing why, drinking milk every
Yeah.
day. And later
I,
on,
I think that it's also people don't recognize. So when we think of allergies, we think of swelling and we think of sneezing, not realizing that flare-ups too can also be allergies because that's inflammation.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, so we don't look at it like that. We look at it like something else, you know. So when we're like in pain, we're like, oh, ouch, you know, my stomach hurt, not realizing that that could actually be an allergy that you're having to something. Some people like are allergic to chicken. I think that's something I never would have thought of, but
mm-hmm.
whatever's in chicken for that specific person is causing them to have some type of flare-ups. And I think people need to also pay attention to where they live at. So I went
Yeah,
to Florida for a while to visit my dad. And in Florida,
it's very
I
humid.
accidentally had lemon
Oh,
and I didn't have allergic reaction. But I recognize with me living in Maryland, what happens is the food in Maryland is not necessarily grown in Maryland, depending on what type of farm. If it's fruit, it's more so grown in a tropical area.
mm-hmm.
If it's grown in a tropical area, it has to be transported. In order for that food to stay fresh, it has to be sprayed with pesticides. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's something like oranges or something coming from a location and you're
Yeah.
dropping it off in Maryland and I'm picking it up and I'm eating it, I'm allergic to that versus me being
Like
allergic to what's in Florida.
that's like some detective work you need to do here. Things. Yes, and then I do feel like that's why it's important that in today our conversation is about being staying in the know, identifying how your body feels, and then looking for substitutions, and then implementing healthy habits and all that, and
Mm-hmm.
also get as much as resource and connections you could to be able to raise awareness and also help people around you and yourself as well. And we're running out of time here, and then but I enjoyed the conversations we have today,
Yes.
that I'm so glad that we're able to talk about so many things, and then we're so aligned, and all this information we're getting here, I like you opened a whole new world to me again, knowing that how you could identify all of these changes to your body regarding food, having a healthier diet, and living a healthier lifestyle that is just for yourself, because everybody's so different. And then also, misconceptions with the endometriosis and what's needed to be done. So thank you so much, Lauren. Is great, 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 amazing information that you're giving us. I think I love how much research you've done and you've been doing with every
Oof. It's not
endometriosis.
on purpose. It's not on purpose. If I could just go to sleep, I would, but you know, it happens.
I think it's great. I think it's so, that's exactly what we need. And then I will love it. I think the world would be much different if everyone would be doing all of this research. things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's really helpful, not just for ourselves and for everybody as well. And thank you.
Yes.
I will do is that I will read through, because I'm doing screen recording as well. I will read through all the comments that I'm doing. I see that there are
Oh,
people,
yay.
all of those things, and then I will make sure to reply them and DM you guys later on. And then thank you again, Lauren. I will repost this on Instagram TV and then YouTube channels, and then let's stay connected, and then make sure
Yes.
we are always keeping this going, not just in the Endometriosis Awareness Month, but also, every
Thank
day.
you. Yep. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate you and all of your support. Thank you.